This presentation is for Bank of America clients only. If you are a member of the media or press, please disconnect now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited about our next company. It is private, and I believe it needs to be on everyone's radar screen. A few years ago, I asked a top waste executive, what is the fastest growing area of the waste stream? And his answer was simple. That's obvious, e-waste, but you just can't make money from it. And I remember that comment a few years ago. Well, fast forward, and e-waste has exploded even more so. But for the first time, we are hearing of companies changing the perception on e-waste recycling. And that brings me to ERI, the largest private electronics recycler that's here today. We have the founder and CEO joining us. So I'm going to hand it off to John, who has a couple of prepared remarks and has slides that he put together today. He will then hand it back to me for a lively discussion in our Q&A. Feel free to email me at michael.feniger@bofa.com. Any questions you'd like to relay in our Q&A. Over to you, John.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you for all your colleagues at Bank of America for hosting me today. This is truly an honor, and I'm just very grateful for this opportunity to you, Michael, to Steve, to Heather. You've made this just a wonderful experience, and I'm just honored to be here today. Electronic waste. I got in this industry about 19 years ago. And when we got in the industry, before there was an iPhone, before there was an iPad, before Al Gore won an Academy Award and Nobel Peace Prize for Inconvenient Truth, e-waste back then was already the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world. Fast forward 19 years, and it's still the fastest growing solid waste stream, but in order of magnitude, it's now the fastest growing solid waste stream by 5 times to the number 2 growing solid waste stream, which is actually plastics. So if we're on this call and we're all excited and concerned and want to support the generational shift from a linear economy to a circular economy, we've got to go after the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world and responsibly recycle it to actually help get us to the circular economy. I'll explain why and how. This is a story from Time magazine, and when Time actually shows up at your door after 17 years of working away, building a company brick by brick, all of a sudden, everyone takes notice. And this was a story called "The World Has an E-Waste Problem," because this is just not a New York or a California or a United States issue. This is the fastest growing solid waste stream on the planet. And these materials, which historically had gone to scrap yards or been shipped off our shores or to landfills, should now be going to responsible recyclers only, so we can maximize the value of what electronics have contained therein. If it goes to a landfill or is shipped off our shores and leaches into our environment from a landfill, because when landfills are rained upon, it gets into our ecosystem and our plant, our animals, and eventually people, electronic waste has many harmful things in it that have no business being in our environment. Arsenic, lead, cadmium, beryllium. So responsibly recycling e-waste is a paramount and critical issue to moving us to the circular economy. We now have 8 facilities. When we started, we had 1. Our first month of business, we recycled 10,000 pounds of electronic waste responsibly. Last month, we recycled approximately 20 million pounds. And all that sounds wonderful, but truth be known, according to the United Nations, only 17% of all electronics that we use on this planet are being responsibly recycled. So although I was excited to get into this industry, I'm more excited every day that I'm in this industry and we're the leading brand, because the delta of opportunity is 83%. We still have an opportunity in the United States and around the world to go after the 83% of electronics that aren't currently being responsibly recycled. And when I say responsible recycling, what does that mean? It means all the right certifications, E-Stewards, R2, and NAID. NAID stands for National Association of Information Destruction. We'll get into that in a little while, but I need to first share this with you all. Responsibly recycling e-waste, although it hasn't gotten the media visibility that Solar City originally got over a decade ago, and then Tesla's gotten and captured mind share with Elon Musk, and also the issues surrounding plastic, it's gotten none of that visibility, but it's one of the greatest untold ESG stories on this planet. When done correctly, when done responsibly, like ERI does, we're zero waste, zero landfill, and zero emissions. And what do I mean by that? When we shred your old electronics to 20 million pounds, and it turns into, in order of magnitude, clean glass, shredded steel, plastic, aluminum, copper, gold, silver, lead, palladium, all those materials go to downstream vendors, downstream partners in our case, for beneficial reuse. None of it goes to a landfill. Secondarily, with regards to emissions, many times when we create solutions on this planet, you create a great solution to a huge problem, but you create other problems. We actually built reverse HEPA systems inside of our facilities so we don't pollute the air for our employees or the communities that we work and live in. So we have zero emissions. And in fact, when OSHA and other organizations who test our air come in, say our air is cleaner in our facilities than it is outside of our building. This is the circular economy in terms of how we work. We bring in all electronics from all of our partners, and those partners include great brands like Waste Management Republic Services, Best Buy, Costco, Amazon, and Staples, all the great OEMs that you could think about, Samsung, LG, Panasonic, and 80 OEMs, and municipalities across the country, such as the City of New York is an exclusive client of ERI's, the City of LA, and 700 cities in between. We bring in these materials, and two things happen. We either shred these materials per the contract, or we can refurbish, wipe the data, retest, repackage, and resell these materials. Zero waste, zero landfill, zero emissions. It's an amazing circular economy and ESG story that is yet to get any visibility in the mainstream media world. One thing I want to point out, though, a couple of things that set us apart from any of our competitors around the world. We've been very lucky to have three strategic partner investors invest in us along the way. LS Nico Copper, which is the LG family out of South Korea, and JX out of Japan, get all our printed circuit boards. They've invested 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and they sit on our board. Alcoa similarly gets all our aluminum. They invested 10 years ago and sit on our board as well. And Redwood Materials, which was the founder of Redwood Materials, is J.B. Straubel. J.B. Straubel was the co-founder of Tesla. He could have invested in any recycler, e-waste recycler on the planet. He's known at Tesla as the legend for building out the operations of Tesla. And J.B. Straubel invested in us 8 months ago and sits on our board. Similarly, the Closed Loop Fund, one of the biggest ESG funds on the planet, which was founded by Ron Gonen, also invested in us 4 months ago His investors include Pepsi, Coke, Procter & Gamble, Starbucks, Amazon, Walmart. You get the picture. And he sits on our board as well. Having strategic partners that are downstream, get rid of all the brokers in between, and creates one of the major pillars of ESG, good ESG behavior, and good circular economy behavior, which is radical transparency. And that's what we strive for every day at ERI. And that's what our clients love us for. Radical transparency. So you ask and you wonder why, with a good company like ERI and other good companies like our company, why has e-waste gone from the fastest growing solid waste stream on the planet 19 years ago to now the fastest growing solid waste stream by an order of magnitude of 5 times? A couple of things have changed, obviously. The Internet of Things. When we got in this business, there was no Nest or Ring or Echo, and wearables weren't a thing. And our devices know everything about us now. And so we need to constantly be vigilant about the data. And I'll get to that in a second. Similarly, why has e-waste become the fastest growing solid waste stream by an order of magnitude of 5 times? We're turning over our electronics faster than ever before. We're now going under a 4G to 5D shift, which is much bigger than analog to digital, or frankly, black and white to color TV. The shift and turnover of electronics on 4G to 5G is massive and going to continue a turnover of electronics at a breathtaking speed. And let me just give you what's coming. 5G to 6G is next. We handle the carriers, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint. They're our clients. They tell us what's coming soon. 4G to 5G is here. 5G to 6G is coming. The onslaught of electronic waste is not going to slow down anytime soon, nor is the fact that cars, especially EV cars and new cars, have become computers on wheels. And there's a slide up here on the left-hand side that shows you that. I never dreamed that CarMax, Volvo, Tesla, when we started this company, would be clients of ours, but they are. Because once you drive those cars and you have your electronics in them, all the information from your electronics is transferred to your car's hard drive, and all that has to be handled appropriately when the car comes to its end of life, end of lease, end of rental. Fortune magazine in 2017 wrote an article on us. We started messaging the issue of data that's controlled and that's contained in hardware and the dangers that lurk within in 2012, and no one listened to us for many years until I met Robert Hackett, the lead writer from Fortune magazine. He writes on cybersecurity, and he brought this story to his editors who said, how could we have missed this? We've focused only on software. Hardware is the other side of the cybersecurity story that's gotten no visibility. There's 20 or 25 software cybersecurity unicorns, and no one's ever talked about the data that's in hardware and the dangers that within. And I'll save you from reading the article. You can read it in your own time, but the last sentence in the article, which was called Dead But Not Forgotten, said, it turns out that electronic waste is not just an environmental hazard, but a cybersecurity one as well. And if you think back to Shred-it being sold to Stericycle for $2.3 billion in October of 2015, then that was before GDPR hit in May of 2018 in the EU. Think about what's the value now of being able to responsibly destroy the data that's contained in hardware. Shred-it did it on paper. We're the biggest company in the world that does it on hardware. You can look at this slide here. It's very instructive and important. This is GDPR coming to America. Every state is going to pass their own version of GDPR. And the issue of privacy and data is paramount now on every politician's and legislator's mind and every regulator's mind. There's going to be federal legislation around this, and state by state, the laws are passing quickly. The noose is tightening. You can't misappropriate your constituency's data and get away without being massively fined. We've seen that with many great brands across the world, both in the EU and the United States already, and that trend is only going to continue. Just last week, Joe Biden held a whole cybersecurity think tank in his office, and he called cybersecurity his core national challenge. ERI is behind that whole movement, and we're working on the hardware side of the national challenge. That's why the Department of Homeland Security is a client of ours, the DOJ is, as are other international organizations like NATO. Sustainability, BlackRock, Larry Fink, in the early part of this year mentioned that sustainability, nothing is more important than good ESG behavior and good sustainability behavior. And he said all of his portfolio brands, CEOs are now going to have to answer up annually to BlackRock leadership as to what they're really doing to make their brands more sustainable, more circular economy oriented, and more ESG friendly. And to that point, we created proprietary software besides being the first brand in the world to use AI and robotics. And we have created proprietarily the world's largest electronic waste shredders that we have all over the United States. We also now have software that tracks every job that comes in, tracks every piece of electronics, and you can the client can press a button radically, transparently. The client can track all their own material without our being involved. They have a password to track it with our software, and then they can produce an ESG impact report to what responsibly recycling their electronics actually meant for the environment at large. And our clients love this, and we're the only company in the world in our space that has a real-time ESG impact report that's printable and usable for all of our clients to report to their C-suite, to their CSR reports, to Wall Street and the analysts. This report is a game changer and is going to become a big thing in the months and years to come. Again, I'm John Shegerian. I just want to mention one thing before I turn it back to Michael. I wrote a book called The Insecurity of Everything. This book is not to make money for me or for my company. It's an education tool. And what I offer, compliments of the opportunity that Bank of America has given us today, is what I offer to any of our listeners or viewers who would like a free copy of this book. I will pay for the shipping and the book itself. You just send me a direct email, or you send Michael an email and say, I'd like a copy of the book. My email address is right there below, jss@ERI Direct, and I'll be happy to send a book or two for you and your colleagues, because cybersecurity, in combination with the circular economy, two of the biggest macro trends on this planet, is exactly where ERI thrives, and we work, and we welcome the opportunity to continue sharing what we know with everybody who's on today's call. Thank you again for today's time. I offer this copy of this book to everyone, and that's compliments of Bank of America for inviting us today. And now I turn it back to our host, Michael.
I was muted. Sorry about that. Thank you, John. Really appreciate that spirited presentation. And you mentioned how this company is at the crosshairs of many mega trends. And what brought you guys to my attention was this big announcement in March. I mean, you mentioned it, JB Striebel, who is previously the CTO and co-founder of Tesla. He started his company, Redwood Materials. They signed an agreement with you in March to partner on recycling batteries and solar panels. I believe, like you said, he's now on your board. So maybe you can just flesh this out a little bit more for us, John.
Sure.
Help us understand what this partnership entails. What's the goal of this partnership, and what does it mean going forward that JB is now on your board, and you have this partnership?
Well, that's a great question, and thank you for asking. JB Straubel, first of all, is just a brilliant and wonderful guy. We became friends about a year ago, and I traveled to his facilities. He traveled to mine, and he decided to invest in us a substantial amount of capital. and sit on our board, which is rare air to have such a successful individual who is known around the world join our board. If I can only say it's beyond humbling. And so the whole goal of the partnership was this. JB wanted to tackle, after leaving Tesla as their CTO, he's still an advisor there, he created Redwood Materials to tackle what we call as the last mile of electronic waste, lithium-ion batteries, and how to appropriately extract all the critical materials that are in them, such as, of course, lithium ion and also copper, nickel, but also let's touch upon the third rail that nobody wants to be on the wrong side of this issue anymore of cobalt. No OEM wants to be on the wrong side of mining cobalt in the Congo. They'd rather buy back, even at a premium, recycled cobalt, and no one's been able to recycle it appropriately yet until JB Straubel came on the scene. And so JB's created unique and proprietary technology that can handle all of our lithium batteries that come out of our facilities. And also, secondarily to the last mile of lithium-ion batteries, he also has worked on recycling what is called the mass that comes out of when we shred solar panels. So no one's been able to tackle on a commercial basis and on a large-scale basis responsible recycling of solar panels. We figured out how to shred solar panels at our facilities and separate the materials, but we didn't have a downstream home for what was then the shredded balls that come out of it. JB and Redwood Materials going to be the home for that. So they're covering the last 2 miles of electronic waste, which is going to be solar panels, which is going to be massive amounts of solar farms coming to their natural end of life in the decade ahead of us, and also lithium-ion batteries, which are one of the greatest, if not the greatest hazard right now to all waste facilities across America, no matter what waste stream you're in. If you're touching lithium-ion batteries, the fires that can come up from lithium-ion batteries is a massive risk to everybody.
That was super enlightening. Thank you for that, John. That was helpful and helping us understand this partnership with Redwood and JB. This leads me to my next question, John. Today the audience has heard from early stage startups to SPACs with interesting technology and processes around recycling plastics. I believe a few years ago, 5 years ago, everyone would roll their eyes on plastics. Even waste management today, there's been a lot of progress from plastics being 5% of what they've collected to potentially now being 30% of their revenue. So plastics has made strides, and some of that has been technology. So I'm curious. You've been in this industry for 19 years. Obviously, e-waste has exploded. How has technology, automation, is it helping you unlock potential to make it more efficient, effective, doing e-waste recycling compared to maybe 5-10 years ago?
100%, Michael. Great question. The truth be known, and I want to be clear up front, is you'll never be able to totally get rid of and automate responsible e-waste recycling. You're always going to need people. We have 900 plus employees in our eight state facilities across America right now, because when you go to CES, at least 22,000 new SKUs come out a year. So the innovation nation, which makes us great, and the constant creation of new and cool gadgets that make our professional and personal lives more fun and interesting is not slowing down anytime soon. That being said, in 2008, we proprietarily created the world's largest shredder in Fresno. We then built numerous versions of that across the United States that no one's been able to replicate. That helps us shred the materials. Furthering that, we then also partnered up with AMP Robotics about 5 years ago, and we were the first to put AI and robotics into our facilities, which again further helps us clean our commodities. And as we know, term of art in the industry is liberated commodities. The more liberated and cleaner your commodities are, the more value you can derive for them. So yes, technology has massively helped us improve the recycling process, both with shredding and also AI and robotics. And as I showed on one of my last screens, software technology. Since I came out of the internet world, We've had software engineers full-time on our staff since the advent of this company. And that's why we're able to create software that creates radical transparency for all of our clients to be able to track the disposition from pickup to the final disposition of their commodities, of how their electronics are being handled. And now the last mile of that was creating an ESG impact report so all of our clients can now not only engage in responsible behavior, but also take the credit for it, which now Wall Street and constituents and clients and citizens across the planet are demanding more of. So yes, technology plays a big role in it, and it's going to continue to, both on software and hardware technology, but it's never going to eliminate the total need for the human touch.
Great, John. And did you say you partnered with AMP Robotics, the company we had earlier today?
Yeah, we were the first to ever use their materials in e-waste. Matanya Horowitz is a good friend. He was introduced to me by Ron Gonen from Closed Loop, and Matanya came out to Fresno before we even had any sales at all. And he started working with our engineers, and then he brought his engineers in, and we were the first to leverage AMP Robotics. So it closes the loop in many ways on your great forum today, Michael. In that AMP is a partner of ours, and we love them, and it's now a sister company of ours because they also have as their investors the Closed Loop Fund, as we do as well.
That's interesting. I'm learning something new. I didn't even realize that. Now, John, as I said, a few years ago, when I brought up e-waste, everyone rolled their eyes. They saw the growth, but you couldn't make money from it. Obviously, things have started to change. There's a lot of ESG and funding, big names behind this. What are still the largest pain points challenging ERI and the e-waste recycling industry today, and how do you see that being solved over the next 5 to 10 years to really see the growth we've seen in plastics, to see e-waste be that next frontier to really go?
Well, I want to go back. It's a great question, Michael. I want to go back to what you asked about plastics, by the way. Plastics, we got to parse out plastic. When we're talking about, when you speak with the great people at Waste Management and Republic Services, who have been clients of ours for over a decade, both of them, and we have a very close and dear relationship with both leadership groups from both great organizations. Their world of plastic mostly is post-consumer waste plastic. Our world of plastic is the plastic that encases old electronics. And so they've made great strides in recycling post-consumer waste plastic. That's absolutely true. We've also made great strides in recycling shredded and clean e-waste plastic. So let me just give you the real stat that everyone on this call has to hear, because you don't hear this in the general media. 100% of e-waste plastic, when gotten to downstream responsible smelters, both some in the United States, now some in Canada, some in South America, and actually Malaysia, Vietnam, and China, all e-waste plastic can be responsibly recycled and go back for beneficial reuse. So that's another great part of the story. Our plastic historically has gotten lumped in with the whole big plastic doomsday media trope about the true facts about polluting rivers and oceans. Plastic has been a disaster, but e-waste plastic, when responsible recycling, is not part of that story. It goes back to beneficial reuse. Going back to your question, you asked a great question about JB Straubel. Two of our biggest pain points was lithium-ion batteries and recycling solar panels, because so many people ask us to handle their solar farms. So the partnership with Redwood is an answer to two of our biggest problems. On a day-to-day basis, Michael, many people, most organizations are greatly challenged on reverse logistics. E-waste is not separate from that as well. Getting back electronics in a responsible and efficient and economical way is always a challenge, and logistics have become a bigger challenge more and more for everybody. Labor is a given challenge. Yes, we're going to need labor, but our labor rates had to go up massively to meet the labor rates of our great clients, like Target, who's a client, and Amazon, and Walmart, and Best Buy, and Staples, and Costco. All of them are clients of ours, but all of them raised their minimum wage to battle through the COVID situation and the world changing socially around us. we're not immune from those things either. So it's a constant balancing act of charging enough for our services because we're a service-based company, and also making sure that we keep our employee base happy and able to get back the materials to us in an efficient and resource efficient way.
Great, John. And I know we're going a little over. I just have to ask whatever you feel comfortable discussing. I mean, it is public information that Redwood Materials just raised a massive round of funding to help its growth ambitions. I'm curious, you said you guys have gone from 1 to, I believe it was 18 facilities. So where is ERI right now in terms of its growth phase? Are you building out even more facilities over the next few years to kind of capitalize on this trend? Where are your investment dollars going today? And lastly, just to kind of throw one little question in there as well, is partnerships. You discussed how you have these minority stakes from LG, Alcoa, they're strategic. Could we see more partnerships with the Apples, the Samsungs of the world that will have to maybe, due to pressure from ESG, be forced to try to get more involved in the circularity of e-waste? Thanks.
Yeah, all great questions. I think you asked 4 questions within that one, Michael, so I'll do my best to unpack them. If I miss something, yes, well, just to correct, we don't have 18 facilities, we have 8, but we have partners that we've audited and spent millions of dollars on auditing with third-party auditors, including the 4 founders of the company visiting around the world. Because what happens are great brands, iconic brands that you would know, come to us and say, John, handle North America for us. And once we do a great job for them in North America, they then say to us, bankers or healthcare agencies or anybody, they say, you now need to handle our material everywhere we are. We're in 40 countries. You need to be in Dubai, Mumbai, Shanghai, and everywhere in between besides the United States. So we have partners around the world. So we have 8 facilities. And yes, JB just raised $700 million. It's all part of the public domain on a $3 billion pre-money valuation. This is a hot topic. But JB is legendary. He has a halo around him that John Shegerian doesn't. I'm just a good entrepreneur. JB is a special rare air person. We are too going to be raising capital to continue to grow. Like I said at the top of this conversation, there's an 83% delta if you look at the UN numbers. Only 17% of all e-waste is responsibly recycled now on the planet. So we've attacked the US really well, and we're doing a good job for our clients around the world. But the opportunity is much, much bigger, Michael. So we're going to raise capital. We're going to continue to grow around the world wherever our clients are. And we expect to be in this business for another, I'm 58 and I have the energy of a 30-year-old. So the foreseeable future, the next dozen or so years, I'm not going anywhere because I'm more excited than when we started this company, in that the challenges and the opportunities are much bigger than ever before. And that's our intent, to continue to grow, not only in the United States, but around the world, to go get some of that 83% and make the world a better and greener and more circular economy friendly place.
Perfect. I think that's a great place for us to wrap this up. Again, the audience, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with John and his team there to learn more about ERI. I do think, like John said, this is a very exciting area that it seems like we're on the cusp of. So everyone, thanks for joining. I just want to say we have another speaker after this. It's going to be Savita, who runs our ESG research, kind of discussing how circularity and how all of this plays into ESG scores. And just to remind everyone, tomorrow we have kind of a full half day on landfill to renewables, which is, a growing, exploding market right now, is a renewable natural gas market. So let us know if you need the agenda for that as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, John, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Michael.